All right, Ms. Oscar. Sorry. Good evening and welcome to the May 4th meeting of the Litchfield School Board. Let's call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any revisions to tonight's agenda?
There were a couple of links that were livened up, but they're marked in red for the board on the electronic version,
Okay.
so that you can see what we've added. Today, I think both links were livened.
Okay, great. Thank you. That brings us to a summary of non-public actions from April 20th, 2022. Mrs. Ames made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of April 6th, 2022. Mrs. Hirschberger seconded. The motion carried 3-0. Mrs. Hirschberger made a motion to accept the resignation of Matt Colombo, LMS Grade 7 Science teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 3-0. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the resignation of Teresa Planty, GMS Grade 2 teacher. Mrs. Ames seconded. The motion carried 3-0. Mrs. Hirschberger made a motion to accept the resignation of Jocelyn Dufour, CHS math teacher. Mrs. McDonald seconded. The motion carried 3-0. That brings us to a presentation with Dick Henry, who's one of our energy consultants on our GMS project and the LMS project. And he's here to talk to us about electric school buses.
So the board is familiar with Dick. You've met Dick as our energy consultant on both
Sorry,
the
I just stole your
LMS
thunder.
and GMS projects. So I won't do much more introduction, but Dick stumbled on some grant possibilities relative to electric buses, and I said, run with it, see what you can do. And so he's going to fill you in on what those possibilities are and what work's been accomplished. So Dick, it's your time.
Great. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here in front of the board. As Tina mentioned, there is actually a national movement underway right now to convert all diesel school buses in the country to electric school buses over the next 10 years. And if you don't know it, there are 87,000 transit buses in this country and 480,000 school buses. So there are a lot of school buses, and between 20 and 25 million students a day take school buses to and from school. Electric school buses are considerably healthier for students than diesel buses, as electric buses have zero emissions on site. And here in New England, because more than half of our source of electricity comes from nuclear, wind, hydro, and solar, even when we charge from the grid, we have fairly low emissions. Another advantage of electric buses is they're very quiet. Fuel costs about 55 to 60% less than operating on diesel, and they have much reduced maintenance costs by between 30 and 60% because there are so fewer moving parts in an electric bus. They also can be charged up using a solar array, as the bus load curves match nicely the school day, and such a setup would save even more on fuel costs as sunlight is free. But currently they are 3 times as expensive to purchase as a diesel bus. Hence the need for a federal subsidy program to get the industry to convert to electric school bus manufacturing. And by working with our bus contractor, First Student, we would get a much better price, as they are planning over the next 10 years to replace all 42,000 of their buses with electric buses. So buying in bulk will get the price down. We have known for some time that coming this spring, there was a $5 billion allocation for funding electric school buses in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. And this $5 billion is going to be doled out $1 billion a year for the next 5 years. Because we knew of this funding opportunity, we began discussions with our contractor, First Student, and currently we have 2 years left on the existing contract with First Student. And according to staff and administration, everybody's quite happy with First Student, and they're doing a good job. And probably would continue with them in the future, but that remains to be seen. After discussions with Mike and Corey, we decided that the best site for a pilot program with electric school buses would be at Campbell High School. We discussed this concept with First Student on how we might collaborate to take advantage of upcoming federal funding, and they were open to considering these ideas, and they also were very up to date on how that EPA money was going to roll out, and it did in fact roll out last Thursday. Then on April 8th, I got a phone call at 7 p.m. from Senator Shaheen's office indicating that they were accepting proposals under the Congressionally Directed Spending Request Program, previously known as earmarks. And proposals were due on April 15th. And it seemed to make sense to submit a proposal for $750,000 to make such a pilot project possible. The total project cost is initially estimated to be about $1.5 million and would be done in cooperation with First Student and Eversource. If we were awarded a grant, funds would not be available until after the federal budget passes for the next fiscal year, probably January or February of 2023. Whoops, sorry about that. I thought I had everything prepared. So we would have a considerable amount of time to work out the details with both Eversource and First Student to see how we might implement a 2-bus pilot project. And we have 2 years to spend the funds if we get them. And electric buses at the moment are on an 8 to 10 month lead time. If we received the funds, we'd have a good start on the project. And if we didn't, we would have the basic outline of a proposal we could submit at a later date to the Clean School Bus Program that, as I said, will award about $1 billion a year for each of the next 5 years. In addition to the health benefits for our students, the advantage of a solar battery bus combination project is we would save fuel costs during the 180 days a year when we would use the system first for charging the buses. And then in the remaining 185 days of the year, we could use the solar to defray the cost of electricity at Campbell High School behind the meter. Another advantage is with 2 electric school buses, which would have about 440 kilowatt hours of battery storage, along with our proposed own battery storage of 345 kilowatt hours. The combined 785 kilowatt hours of electricity could be used to shave CH Campbell High School's demand charges. And right now, believe it or not, the demand charges at the high school are running at about 46% of the total monthly cost. So being able to control those demand charges would save about $21 per kilowatt. And when you consider right now, the demand charge at the high school is somewhere between 180 and 200 kilowatts a month. That's a significant amount of money that we would save on a monthly basis. And during the summer, we would be able to sell power back to the grid on almost a daily basis and generate additional income for the district. At the present moment, this is only possible to a limited extent, but vehicle to grid sales is coming down the pike, and in the next several years will probably become a reality here in New Hampshire for Eversource. It already is possible with the co-op, and I believe with Unitil, and possibly Liberty, but Eversource is a little bit behind the rest of the utilities in the state on this front. Another aspect of the program is that there is currently a docket at the PUC by Eversource that would set up an off-peak hours EV charging rate. And usually these charging rates run about 1/3 the cost of the normal kWh rate. So we're looking at about 21 cents a kilowatt hour right now. As some of you may have noticed, that went up about 25% just in the last couple of months. And so 1/3 of that would be a charging rate of 7 to 10 cents a kilowatt hour, which would be a big savings. With the board's approval, we would like to continue to explore funding opportunities and design of the project, working with First Student and Eversource to provide a pilot electric school bus program for the Litchfield School District. We're also being offered assistance on this project from the World Resources Institute that has received a large 5-year grant to help communities around the country institute electric school buses. We would keep you posted on our progress and developing opportunities that may change over the next several years. And we see such a program as providing a healthier transportation system for our students and help reduce overall energy costs for the district. So that is our request at the moment.
Thanks, Dick. I had a quick question. You said that
Tina, just speak up a little bit. So
oh, I'm sorry.
Mike's
Right,
over
you're
here.
over here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at us.
she's talking to this
The
big
screen.
screen, Dick. She's got
Yeah, it's looking at the
All
screen,
right,
yeah.
I'm looking at you. So you mentioned the pilot program would cost about $1.5 million.
Yep.
Right. So would that be fully funded by the grants, or would the town of Litchfield put forward some portion of that?
Well, it's a little early to tell.
Okay.
But my thinking is that in talking with First Student, they offered in-kind services, which would be very helpful in terms of engineering and other types of things that they are very familiar with. So that would be one source of funds that would be considered matched. There also would be some rebates from Eversource, and I haven't had a chance to talk with the right people at Eversource quite yet, but they too would provide, I believe, in-kind services. There are a number of foundations that are interested in doing this kind of work, and so I just got an email this morning from the World Resources Institute saying, how would you like us to help us? And one of those things was additional funding sources. So my initial concept had been that we would use the earmarked money as a challenge grant. We haven't made any commitment to take it. We haven't even been offered it yet, so who knows? We use it as a challenge grant, and we would explore other funding sources to match that challenge. And I would try and keep the amount that the district needed to contribute to the project to a minimum. I do think that the payback on the project, if we got the 750,000, would be less than 10 years, and that there would be significant savings at the high school. I mean, the value of the energy from 100 kW solar array would be about $25,000 a year. The reduction in fuel usage would be $6,000 to $8,000 a year. The reduction in maintenance costs would be about $25,000 a year. And then if we could charge the buses with off-peak rates as well, that would allow even more savings. So I don't have all the numbers yet because we really haven't scoped out the project in any great detail yet. But I would hope that a substantial portion of the matching amount would either be an in-kind services or from other sources of funding.
Okay. So at this point, you're looking for a board's approval to keep researching and keep plugging along with the pilot.
Yes, that's what I got.
That's what I gathered.
Yeah, so the ask is
Or to
permission
approve
to keep going and approval of the application as we have it, right? So that we keep on this track and keep
Yeah.
trying to pursue it. Dick, I think there's one other nuance, and I want to make sure that I have this accurate.
Yeah, sure.
Currently, even though First Student provided us with new buses as part of our contract, they're
Right.
not our buses. If we don't re-up with First Student, those buses are owned by First Student. Versus these two buses, what exactly would be the ownership of them at the end?
Well, I would think that would be something we would negotiate with First Student. The terms of the challenge grant for the clean bus funding is that you have to operate the buses for at least 5 years after you purchase them. And these buses normally have a 12 to 15 year life expectancy, and in some places as long as 20. But given the salt that we use on the roads in New Hampshire, I think 15 years is probably a reasonable estimate of the life of the
And what's
of
the
the
life
building
expectancy
of of the bus. Sorry,
yeah, and that compares to a diesel bus's lifespan. I think they're like 10-year-old.
I can't hear her.
What's the lifespan of a diesel bus?
A diesel bus is about 12 years.
The piece with the diesel is the diesel engine will go for, 1 million miles.
Yeah.
That's not the problem.
Mhm.
It's the salt on the roads that rots out
The body.
the body of the
Yeah.
bus.
Yeah.
So that's the limiting factor. So
Okay.
it seems as if the batteries may not last as long as a diesel engine, but the bus is going to rot away before either one fails. So that's the factor.
And also, the buses do have some resale value at the end of their life. There's a lot of work going on now, taking vehicle batteries and redeploying them in utility storage applications. So in 10 years from now, there'll definitely be a market for old bus batteries.
What financial obligation do we have to Mr. Henry to continue to do the research of this program?
So our contract with Dick is for energy consulting, and it's an hourly contract. So when he initially asked us about this, we authorized him to continue under the existing contract. So, but it's an hourly rate. And I said, yeah, if you can pursue and get us that kind of money, that's a wise investment.
Yeah, I mean, look, at face value, I think it makes sense, and certainly worth pursuing the research of. I find it interesting that we're considering this for 2 buses when we have a need of 9 in town, right? I also find it interesting, or more, right? And that's arguable, I guess, right? I also find it interesting that we're talking about this being related to CHS, which is the only building that wouldn't have a solar array, right? For the building itself, which is now going to be installed at LMS and potentially at GMS. So I don't know why CHS is being chosen. And just the third point, if I may, some of the energy rates and the kilowatt hour rates that were mentioned are also assuming that you're not part of a plan, right? I mean, a lot of homeowners shop around for various rates. I do, right? I locked in for 13 cents per kilowatt hour for the next 3 years. So I'm assuming that we as a district do that as well. We don't rely upon Eversource rates.
Yeah, so let's take those one by one. So,
Sure.
So question 1, though, I lost. It was
2 versus 9.
2 versus 9. So really that comes down to the cost. The electric buses are more expensive than a diesel bus. So the purpose of the grants is to help level that playing field so that it's reachable. Because if there wasn't a grant possibility right now to help drive that, people would go with the lesser expensive option. So we thought a 2-bus demonstration project was manageable under a budget versus to do 7 more or 8 more. The grant's not going to kick in all that extra to help the incentive. So we were trying to figure out how to maximize the incentive coming from the federal government. If I have that correct, Dick, as to why.
Well, let me expound on that a little bit. There's 2 sources of funds here. The first is the congressionally approved funding from Senator Shaheen that would get this project off the ground if we got it. That's the $750,000. There are 4 additional opportunities to apply for the clean bus funding, which for a district like ours, offers up to $250,000 a bus as a rebate. A rebate's a bit of a misnomer because the way it works is they give you the money before you have to buy the bus. You have to put the order in, then they give you the rebate, and when the bus is delivered, you have the funds in hand. So there's no bridge funding there that needs
Is
to
that
be
the
done.
one from Eversource that he's talking about? Is that the clean bus funding? Is
That's
that
the clean bus
Eversource?
funding.
Okay,
That's
got it.
a completely different program.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
That's not
Right.
That's
Eversource.
another
Right,
bucket.
right,
Okay,
right,
got it.
Right. So what we did this time around was jump on this opportunity from Senator Shaheen's office with this special dedicated type of funding, and it's an open competition between many people who applied for it. So there's no guarantee that we will get funded. And as I said, articulating what we were looking for is a big help in getting ready to apply for the next round of funding from the Clean Bus Program. But there's a lot of details that still need to be revealed by EPA before we'll really know where we fall into the potential for getting that funding. So it's putting together a plausible, good program in conjunction with First Student and in cooperation with Eversource, because we need their cooperation, and sort of fleshing it out so that we can see what our choices are down the road. And in the other circumstance, I would have come to the board first, but we had 5 days to write this proposal, and it seemed better. You know, as Wayne Gretzky said, 100% of the shots you don't take don't go in. So it seemed worth taking the shot.
So the second was Campbell.
This location, yeah.
Yeah, so we had an early conversation about taking advantage of the new array at LMS. The problem is the real estate for parking. So, you know, we were like, it's already tight as it is. We have site work we do need to do there in terms of parking. Plus there's issues. You know, the one thing that's not being addressed with everything there is the underground drainage system that's going to have some attention down the road. We know that that's a can we've kicked. So now adding parking for 2 buses and connectivity just felt complicated to that site. So then we shipped it over to GMS, but that's a big unknown. So you're going for the grant for the school that you haven't even had approved yet. And so really it became, where do we have a site that we can use? And we have no concerns about trying to find a place for a couple of buses to park. Campbell became the location, because you have to be, Dick, how close to the array? The buses need to be
And at least 700 feet of the array, or preferably closer. So, you know, 350 feet from. And there were several places on the backside of Campbell that would meet that. And also, as Andrew pointed out, if the program expanded at a future date, we would have space on the Campbell roof to expand the KW, and we would also have space adjacent to the building where we could add additional buses. But you're right, it would be nice to get to 9 Type C buses and 2 Type A buses and have them all on electric, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Once we talked our way through Campbell, just the idea, you know, Dick was the one who sort of lit up and said, well, the shaving of demand, like the fact that we can cut that, because that is just a huge expense. As he said, it's almost half. And so to open that possibility almost became the 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. Like, we can do this, have it for the buses, have it as the project. And, oh, and by the way, shave these other expenses and take advantage in the summer. It almost became a pretty obvious way to proceed on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, not only did the rate of kilowatt hour costs go up 2 months ago from somewhere around 16.5 cents to 21 cents, but the demand charge also went up from 18 cents to 21 cents. Sorry, $18 to $21. So that was a big jump. And demand charge shaving is one way you can really save quite a bit of money right away. I mean, we're spending between $9,000 and $10,000 a month at Campbell on electric costs.
And Dick, can you just talk for a second about the shopping around aspect for a municipality versus a residence?
Sure. A few years ago, getting third-party energy sources really made a lot of sense because they were 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour cheaper than the default charge, which is the standard charge that Eversource supplies. However, within the last 6 months, due to the Ukraine war, the price of natural gas has almost doubled since last August. It was running around $2.95, $3 a million BTUs in August of last year. It's now at $7, pushing $8. And the reason for this is that the war in Ukraine has stopped the gas from Russia going to Europe. And the price has jumped up to $35 to $40 a million BTUs in Europe now for gas. So every LNG tanker available in the US is loading up in Texas at somewhere around $3 to $4 at the terminal. When it gets onto a tanker, it's now worth $6. When it gets to Amsterdam, it's worth $8. And when it gets on shore at Amsterdam, it's worth $30. So what an LNG tanker used to make $250,000 to $1 million a trip, a full loaded trip from Texas to Europe was about $1 million profit. Right now, the average profit for an LNG tanker is $60 million, and individual tank trips have gone as high as $100 million. So what's happening is the surplus capacity that we had in this country is now going to Europe. And so that's driving up the prices here. Fortunately, we don't have enough capacity to ship more than 15% of what we generate to Europe. So the price won't equalize with Europe, but it's going to be high and it's going to stay high for the conceivable future. So what happens, there's a long-winded way of saying third-party suppliers that are buying energy on long contracts, the way Andrew pointed out, are getting nowhere near the spread that they used to get from the large utilities. So now if you can make half a cent to a penny per kilowatt hour, you're doing pretty well with a third-party provider. And unlike the deal that Andrew got for 3 years, no one's given 3-year contracts anymore on electricity because the market is just too volatile and nobody has any idea where it's going to go. You combine that with oil, like today, the NYMEX exchange bounced back up to $107 a barrel for oil. Again, it was $60 a barrel last August. And there's talk that if things really go south in Europe, it could go to $185 a barrel. So the energy market is so volatile like right now that everybody's holding their breath. But there was just an article in the Times today saying we're going to have high electric costs, expect electric costs to go up another 50% this coming year. And there's very little you can do about that except generating your own electricity. And that's where solar comes in as stabilizing costs for the school budget for 20 or 30 years. You'll know when we finish at LMS and if we finish at GMS, what your electricity costs will be for the next 30 years. And everybody else will be sweating bricks.
Thanks, Dick.
There's also one other possibility with solar, and that is what's called group metering. And you can designate a group of buildings that any excess electricity you have goes toward their bills. So conceivably, if you had extra at LMS, you could have that extra go to the other two school buildings. You could have it go to the municipal buildings. You can create your group as long as it's consistent, pretty much anywhere you want. In that case, the host provider does have to take default service, but the other players do not. They can take third-party service. And that may have even changed this year in the legislature. There's a couple of bills that are trying to change that, and I don't know whether they passed this year or not.
Excellent. Thank you, Dick.
Did that answer your question, Andrew?
Yes, I'm sharing a link with the school board now.
Okay.
I can't hear him.
He's sharing a link with the board.
Okay.
Can you, just for the people watching?
Can I just recap? So right now, we've put an application in to get $750,000 in grants. Okay, that's not approved yet. It's in process. So so you're going to be doing research, and by the time that gets approved, will you know about the other, like, what is the sequence of what decisions have to be made when? I think that's what I really want to know. You know, I mean, obviously you could at the end of the grant cycle, if we don't have all these extra funds in place, we can say no to the grant. We don't have to move forward. But those are the kinds of things that I'd just like to know what the decision points are.
Right. At this stage, you have made no commitment to anything. We just put our hat in the ring. In the meantime, what I'm asking for is permission to continue to research other sources of funding to make a project like this, if not identical to this, possible. And as I make progress, I'll come to you and say, okay, I found another source of funds, and
Here's where we're at.
I'd like to put an application in for that. At which point, if let's say and I'm just pulling this date out of my hat because there was no indication in the application when we would be notified whether we got it or not. But let's say we're notified by the 1st of August that we did qualify and funds would be available sometime January, February, March of next year. That makes fundraising a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
To be able to go to the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, to be able to go to other national foundations, look at other federal programs, and say, okay, who out there could help us get stronger commitments from First Student and Eversource as to what money they would like to contribute to this. I believe if we were fortunate enough to get funded, this would be the first electric school bus project in the state. And that I don't know enough to know who else is applying, but that we would be, I think, a desirable group to help get funded.
So do you need a motion to proceed or?
I think that's the right avenue, is a motion to proceed, to continue, a motion to continue the path. And really, at this point, our obligation is to continue to pay Dick for this work, right? So this is additional work, but it's under the same contract. So I think it's to continue the pathway.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize Dick to continue under the current contract and pursue grant funding for an electric school bus pilot program.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Questions for Dick?
Is it definitely grant funding? Is there any other name it would be called or
Or
anything?
rebates.
Rebates. I just want to be careful about we're authorizing him to look at
I
all funding sources rather than just
Right.
grant.
I think grant is the general, not our money catchphrase. And so to continue to pursue that in various forms, rebates, grants,
Mhm.
these are actually, there's a fancy name for the federal funds that
Mhm.
he's identified. So
Mhm.
it's all, and then at the end of it, when we pieced all that together, if there's an ask from the taxpayers, we would have to come back and say, and here's
Right.
here's what we propose to incorporate into the budget
Or on a warrant.
or on a warrant article
Yeah.
or
My view is it doesn't really remove us from any contractual obligations with First Student, right? And now we're taking ownership and associated risk with the ownership of 2 buses that we really don't know anything about. And in thinking about longer term conversations, I'm sure at some point we're going to be talking about as a board a solar array for Campbell to again remove the utility costs from that building, right? Maybe it makes sense to put this in conjunction with that and talk about an expanded program that is able to serve all 9 buses at some point. I don't know. I just don't know if this is the right timing. That's where my head's at.
we see this as the ooching, the stepping into it approach. I think you're absolutely right. I think this provides us an opportunity to engage. We've already had a meeting with First Student, by the way. Remember, they provide buses across America. This is a huge thing. The gentleman who they brought to the conversation was in DC and was instrumental in helping to secure some of the funds because they're a big player. They're not looking at little Litchfield. They're looking at buses all across America. What was your number, Dick? Almost 500,000 school buses.
No. They have 42,000.
They have, but
They have 42,000. So, about, a little short of 10% of all the school buses in the country.
and so they would. I think you're right that we would then have an opportunity. We would have 2, but we become a part of that, and it's a negotiation tool with them about the next contract. About we don't currently own the buses that are running around with our name on them. So all of that becomes part of the conversation down the road.
And you save about 110,000 with First Student out of our current contract rates for 2 buses.
If we owned them.
Correct.
Well, be cautious with the number because we still have to have a driver. We still have to, so you have all the operating
Sure.
costs that go with that.
Mhm.
I mean,
But you still have a driver with an electric bus.
But they would be.
but they would be the provider of the
Right.
driver, so we don't have anybody on staff who can train a driver, supervise a driver, et cetera. That's what that part of that
do any
We take that
maintenance.
on.
rate. Yeah. Or
Okay.
they do that. We contract with them to, here's what you're doing. But by the way, the bus is ours. We're not leasing the bus. We're not paying for the payment on the bus. There's no fuel costs associated with the bus. So that's what I mean about the negotiation piece being different.
So there's a motion in a
A
second.
motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? 410.
Excellent.
Thank you, Dick.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you putting me first. That makes my day.
Have a great night, Dick. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
That brings us to community input. I tried to join it and I'm not able to.
You tried to join which one?
The HAR-JANA HNK.
Interesting.
So
HAR. Oh, see, you want to join?
that's me.
I have to let you in.
Okay. So it's for future reference. Maybe we open that a little bit sooner, and if we can monitor that. I know you had Dick presenting on your screen too,
Right.
but
I actually had that opened and
Oh.
I don't know what
you ignored me.
might have.
All right.
Did you get a prompt that you were waiting to be admitted?
I did.
Okay, so at least you knew that.
I did. So I can open it on mine too and just admit people. That way nobody is turned away. Reminder that you can also provide your community input by phone at 1-662-565-5146. The PIN is 911-992-355 and the pound sign or hashtag. And that'll be open for a few minutes while we read through correspondence.
Which there is none. Did anyone else get any?
I don't believe so.
I just get
was a
lunchroom
quiet-
changes
quiet
and
week.
Wayfair updates on furniture in my mail.
In your school
In my
board
school
email?
board mail.
All right. So at this time, I thank everyone who did not actually provide comments, but there will be another community input opportunity at the end of the meeting. So no correspondence, and that brings us to superintendent comments. I see general assurances.
Yep. So the general assurances are an annual piece, and under the current commissioner, he changed the process. And so in the past, these were something that came into the business office, and the superintendent would sign off on these and submit them. The commissioner thought it was important that the board understand what the superintendent has obligated the district to do under all the federal laws. And so they added the initials of the school board chair to the bottom of each page, and they added the signature of the school board chair to the last page. And so this is a 17-page document that is signed by Tina and initialed by me and signed by me. So this is all prepared and ready to go. There's not a rush on this. This is due in June 30th. And so we provide it to the board as information so that you can read it over and understand what Tina and I are signing and obligating the district to do. And then I think it's important the board authorize us to sign it. But it's not something that we need you to do tonight. And if you're ready, we can. And if you want to wait, that's
I had a
fine
couple
too.
questions actually about it. General assurances number 18. Like example, no texting while driving. This is, I mean, how do we ensure that it said something about grant employees? You know, there's a lot of, restrictions and rules that people who are funded by these grants have to comply with. And my question is, how do we ensure that the grant employees are informed about what they need to comply with?
First of all, I would like to think that since it's a law that you
Yeah.
can't text while driving,
Exactly.
Well, that's one
everybody's
example.
informed
I
whether you
know.
are whether you are grant funded or not.
I know, but there's
Um,
other specific things in there too. That one I was like, I just want to make sure that they
Do
know.
grant-funded positions on a special contract because they're grant funded, or is it?
They get a regular teacher contract, but any employee whose position is funded by grants is informed of that. So they know that grant funds are supporting their position. So
Okay.
they certainly know that. We would not hand them the 17-page document and say, this is everything there. But I look at like number 18 and,
As long as they're all laws, I
The-
suppose.
the law in that
they
case,
would.
And actually,
Yeah.
that's what most of them refer to a specific federal or state
Yeah.
law.
Yeah. Okay.
and
All
I
right.
think also policies that we have, I don't know that we
Yes.
need to adopt a policy on you can't text while you drive because there's a law that covers that. But if there were not a law, I would say that we should have a policy that employees sign off on.
Right.
That you
So
can't
actually,
text
that
while
was my
driving.
other question. Do we have all these policies that they mentioned? I mean, I looked up a few of them and I found some of them, but like inventory management, time, effort, monitoring, and allowable cost. I don't know if we
It's
have.
all under DAF, the federal funds policy.
Oh, okay.
And I
All
would look
right.
to
Very good.
Corey in terms of the oversight of
Okay.
those pieces.
What about internal control and alignment to COSO framework? That's called out in section 3, internal control.
I could hardly hear you say that.
I'm sorry. What about our compliance with COSO framework, which is a component of section 3, internal controls?
Internal controls are documented and reviewed by the auditors on an annual basis.
So that's an external review, not internal. Okay.
We follow our procedures and policies, which are tied in by the auditors to make sure that we're following that.
I mean, it specifically says COSO, right? When I think this is my space and what I do for work, right? And when I think about COSO, I think about risk assessments and issues and remediation activities and alignment to all those various framework elements of that particular standard. And does this put us on the hook to having a very specific internal control framework and risk assessment process within the district?
So I would say yes, and we do.
Okay.
I think, internal controls are not new to us. We have internal controls. I'm looking at I had to find the section that you were referencing.
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
did find it now. And again, I would lean on Corey in terms of, when you say COSO, for example, are we specifically following that? Do our auditors follow that?
I'm sure the auditors do, right?
And so then, is it by virtue of what they're auditing and the practices they have in place, are we aligned? And I would assume that to be the case. But why don't we look at that and get back to specific to that question?
Okay.
Any other questions about the general assurances? Did everybody have a chance to review them and? Yes? All right. So are we ready then to take a vote?
I would suggest that we
I'd
Give-
like another week.
Okay.
give us a chance to get
Yeah.
back on the question
Right.
from
On
Andrew.
Andrew's
And,
question, yeah.
and I think the other thing is it's linked on the, actually, I'm going to verify with Michelle. It's linked on the public agenda. So if anybody watching at home wants to review this, and then
That's a good idea.
give the public an opportunity to ask us a question, because this is not due till the end of June. So
Okay.
I'd rather get it done before that. The other thing we found is that with NHED now, you have to upload it here and then you have to attach it to the, and so
We want some more time.
yeah,
before the
well,
30th.
it's just like trying to figure out where to put these has become a little bit of a challenge. So we'll bring them back next session for a vote if that's okay.
Next, we have the enrollment
Yep.
report.
So enrollment for April, looking at the document, you can see that for, bear with me here, Griffin had a decrease of 3 students, and that was 1 third grader and 1 kindergartner and 1 pre-K student. So they're at 458, but they opened at 454. So it's really overall steady enrollment. The middle school stayed steady at 355. They opened at 354, so it's relatively steady there. And the high school is at 419, which is a drop of 4. And it appears that 5 seniors disappeared and we gained a 9th grader. They didn't disappear. We had
They graduated from
We had
Londonderry High School.
we had 4 seniors who graduated from Londonderry Night School, and we had 1 student who we learned had completed actually last year. So this was a student not enrolled at Campbell, but a high school student who had completed, and we just learned of that.
So that's
So
good news.
it's all 5 quote disappear, but they're all 5 completers. So
Great.
that is good news. And there's actually a note: 5 less seniors are the 4 that. Oh, it's right there. I just explained it, and it's in writing underneath.
It's tiny writing though, so thank you.
And then, are there any questions on enrollment there? If not, let's look at kindergarten enrollment. You can see that we are currently at 61 and 82 first graders. So the first grade number has actually been slowly declining if you track down that. And the kindergarten number has been slowly creeping up. And that is under where we were this time last year. We were at 82 last year. So it's interesting. And I'm sure Dan can address
Yeah.
questions about how we're promoting it, but we're promoting as we always do, encouraging parents to register early and not wait so that we can get everybody ready to go.
I had a question. Can you see it on there? The question I had on.
I'm on paper, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I can put it
according to these numbers, we have 4 teachers per grade with the exception of grade 5, which has 5 teachers. Does that sound right?
For next year or this current year?
For next year,
So for next year, no, first grade would be at 5.
but the number is at 82. Isn't it 86 is our number?
I thought it was 81.
the trigger number.
Yeah,
Let me pull it up.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
It's another
so we
document.
budgeted,
How do you
in
know?
the budget presentation, we have for 5 first grade teachers.
Because you have 5
We have 5
kindergartens right now.
But kindergarten's number is 18 and first grade's number is 20.
Yeah, and at the time of the budget, we had the
We had 85,
85,
yeah.
86.
And now it's 82.
But we don't take away a teacher now that it's under the number, the threshold number?
Is it under the threshold?
I thought the number was 86, but I might be
We're
wrong.
gonna find out.
You're saying take it away for the current year?
No, for next year.
Oh.
The threshold number, I believe, would be 84.
84? No, it's 86.
No, because
No.
it would be 21 per class.
Okay.
21 per class.
This class is at 20.
But we're still at, all right, then fourth grade would have a fifth teacher at this point.
No, because fourth grade jumps up to 24 students, so that number's at 92.
But we're still at 82 for first grade, not 84, which we were at 85 in January. So we're just going to keep the fifth teacher and hope that two more kids
No,
move in?
we're gonna follow the policy.
That's just what I'm sure two more kids are going to move in the way houses are rolling back
But we
and
don't
forth.
want to cut it now, only to have to.
Yeah,
add that.
right now, the plan for GMS for next year is 4 kindergarten, 5 in first grade, and 4 for the rest of the grades.
And that's what I have highlighted in yellow. That's
I
the
just don't
projection
ever
that
want
we
to
have.
see a teacher find out in June or August that we don't need them anymore. That's my concern.
Um,
Over that.
Or anybody losing their job late, because we are sticking to our policy of 84. And if Brian was here, he'd be going, there are 82, so we shouldn't be taking away. We should be adding it to the third grade.
And that's a conversation.
Or not the third grade. When are we going to have that conversation?
You know, I have to go back because one thing I did not update after the board adjusted the policy, which really was wording the same thing in a different way.
Yeah, that's what
However-
it ended up being.
The yellow is showing 20, the class size guide in,
Right.
in
20.
first grade is 20.
It is. Yeah.
And, but where's the trigger number? You said it's 84,
84.
Dan?
Yeah.
So I really should update that to say trigger numbers so that we know when that decision gets made.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can look at that and say it's 20, which is 80 becomes your trigger number. It really isn't. Your trigger number is
Mhm.
really,
Right.
and 1 over in each.
Right.
So
So it'll
I'll,
be 85, 84 will
Eight-
be 85.
85,
Yeah,
the
when the-
85th nose results in the fifth teacher.
I mean, I just want to be consistent because if we start the school year and there are only 82 kids in there, people are going to be mad because we are consistent. I mean, I don't want to cut your teacher, but we have stuck to this number all the way until the end.
we'll be consistent.
Okay. I just don't want anyone to get laid off. Be surprised.
All right. Any other questions on the enrollment? All right. Website committee. This is exciting.
Yeah, so let me just talk, and that's the link that I livened up for you today. So the website committee is really an effort to get a handle on our existing website.
That's not the link that we have.
No, I
I like that
You're just
one though.
presenting to
I
us.
can get at it later, but
Is it a gerbil? What is it?
It's hard to say.
I'd have to ask
I think
third
it's a
grader
cat.
Echo.
Mhm.
Oh.
Because I don't know. But at any rate, the website is up for renewal. The contract with the hosting company is up for renewal. So I've asked Michelle and Chris to co-chair a website committee to take a look at that agreement and to figure out what it is that we need to do to get our website to be
Consistent?
consistent, but also mobile friendly. I mean, I've
Yeah.
argued that, more people are accessing
That is
us on
true.
this device than a big screen device. And so that's the behind the scenes work that they're doing. And then I said, once we figure that out and know what the best way to proceed is, then we should bring a committee together to hear that, agree that that's the right way, and then to continue to monitor it. Because I said, what I think is missing is routine, regular meetings about the website.
I agree.
And if we have a parent, and if we, as you can see there, the web content managers for each school, the folks who are the ones responsible for this, if they just get together and problem solve and work together, and by the way, if there's a button on the website that says, I have a complaint about your website and here it is, and it goes to this group,
That'd
and
be awesome.
monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, they're able to respond to that. I think we have a better website as a result of having that kind of an open process going forward.
Is
So
our current agreement a hosting only agreement or is there design and editing
Yeah.
included in that?
Yeah, there is. We just reached out to the website company, and we looked at a few others, and
So So there's
For
some
stu-
allowance to make changes each month.
Yeah, well, not each month, but an overall design change. They've upgraded from, they've changed from eSchool View to what they call Link, LINQ, which is, they've become more mobile friendly. They have new liquid platforms. I see a difference on my side for the administration of what I put on as content out there, but it's not there yet on the physical site. So I've been playing with it in the background. They actually
So it's like
are
an
not
upgrade.
planning on charging us any more for design work than they did 5 years ago. So that's a good thing. And they are very flexible. They'll let us pick and choose from different templates if we want.
This is the same company that
The
we're
same
with now.
company. They're support, I have to say well, this will be the 6th year, right? Yeah. In 6 years, I can count on one hand how many times we've had an issue with the website. And their support, they get back to us in like 10 minutes. So it's been really, really good. And their prices are low.
Have we
So
looked into Google Sites?
We have. So there are school districts that use Google Sites, but actually, that's another piece in terms of looking at this, is who has a good website.
Yeah.
And we started to look around, and we said to them, send us website links that you feel are exemplars with your software. And they don't even look like ours. I mean, they're completely
Yeah.
different. And so
Well, Google or the other one?
with this
They
company.
Okay.
And then we looked at school districts that use Google Sites, and our sense is that the fact that the task of migrating everything to a new platform versus upgrading with the existing platform where the data already resides at minimal cost makes some sense. But we want to run that by the committee and make sure. In the end, we might backpedal and say, no, we can do this, but
But that's what the committee's for.
that's what
Yes.
the committee's for.
Sounds good.
That's right. And you can see there's a board member on there. So we are looking for, I guess, a couple of things. Consensus to plug ahead with this committee structure because we want to get organized and love to have this thing off the ground for the start of school. I think we can be that quick. And we would need a board member who really understands the communication through website to help guide that work for us.
So. Are you looking for a vote to approve the committee? And then a board member
Yep, we can
interested?
just plug ahead with consensus, or you can take a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the website committee.
I'll second. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right,
I would I think the issue, if I may, under conversation here, I think the issue with our website, and I'm not that technical of a guy, so I'm not the guy for this, but I think it's not up to code with HTML5, which is why a lot of people have issues with it on their mobile applications. So that would be the key thing for me to look for in something new. That's as far as my technology goes. I'm thinking of like Derek Barca and how perfect he would be for this.
Yeah.
Just little things like the sports newsletter, it's from 2020 on there.
Well,
And
there's
tweets are on there.
there's stale links. There are differences between the three schools in terms of the way they roll stuff out.
Mhm.
People have said to us, we love the LMS Google Calendar that just integrates everything. Why don't the other schools
Yeah.
have it?
Mhm.
The problem is we have three independent contractors that are
Right.
managing
Yeah.
three independent,
And I think you're right, bringing them
Well,
together is the way.
And they
the
need
way
a
forward.
PLC.
and they
Yeah.
just need that opportunity. And if it starts off monthly and it turns into quarterly, that's okay too. But we also, before we issue stipends next year, I want to be clear to people to say, you're going to be on the committee and you're going to have these meetings and here's the way we're going to flow if you accept the stipend. So I think now is the right time to sort of revamp this and to try to get it off the ground. And Andrew lost me at HTML5. So
I don't know what you've seen it somewhere.
I think you just made that up. I'm not sure.
No, that's a real thing.
I'll call a vote then. All in favor of having a website committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? That passes 500. I am interested in being on this website. I'm not a website is on this committee. Don't have to be on the website.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. I'm an extensive user.
Yeah, that counts
Although
for
I'm not a
something.
designer.
You're a typical parent.
I'm a typical parent, and I visit I have experience with a lot of websites and school websites in particular. Unless if it. Plus, I have a lighter load looking at the committees that we're already members of. So if anybody else wants it,
I'll be your backup if you can't go to meetings.
okay, Liz.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah,
Keep it
that's
simple.
absolutely fine. My question is, do we have people identified for IT tech, parent and student yet or not?
So we do not have the parent and the student identified. We have the IT technician is Roger.
Mhm.
And so he does a lot of work with Chris. So he supports. So that is an identified position. And then the 3 website content managers we have now, but one is retiring. And the other 2 need an opportunity to say, no, I don't want to be part of this new structure. So that'll be re-upped for next year. My gut is that the 2 will carry on with it, but we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm the rep.
Sorry, one question. How should, if parents are interested, should they let you know? Or are you going to reach out to them?
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put something out in the newsletters and just say we've got a seat for a parent who would like to be part of helping us update the website. And we'll solicit names. I may have them go to Michelle. In fact, they should go to Michelle and Chris, but we'll get that out in the newsletters and then we'll pick
Mr.
somebody.
Barker, if you're watching, this one's for you.
There could be a senior project for some
Do you
child.
have budget
It's a
tomorrow?
great senior or
No.
sophomore project.
A senior or sophomore project would be
Gonna say,
fantastic.
having that-
Because I know the seniors do the things, the TVs too. This would be a great senior project.
Just saying, juniors. Okay. Great, thank you. With that, we'll go on to school board comments. Sorry, I lost my place.
So we just-
Yeah. School board comments?
Welcome back from vacation if you got back.
When you got back.
Congratulations to all our sports teams who've
Yeah,
had
they're
a lot
doing
of success
fantastic, yeah.
recently.
Happy Teacher and Staff
Appreciation
Appreciation
Week.
Week.
All those great
I hope
ones.
everybody is being spoiled as they deserve to be. I'm sure they are.
They are.
And I think I can speak for the board on this and say that we appreciate every single teacher and staff member in our
Mhm.
district, and we know how hard you work. And we're forever grateful for your service and working with us. So thank you. All right. That brings us to the public minutes from April 20th, 2022. I'll make a motion to approve the public minutes from April 20th, 2022.
I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
I
Abstain?
Yes.
Oh, you weren't here, right. Just wanted to make sure I counted you in the right place. So 401. We have the budget transfers. Or did you have anything to discuss?
These are
about
just
this?
from the beginning of the school year up to date. All budget transfers go through up to $5,000 go through me for approval. If it's above that threshold, it goes through me, then to Mike. If we have any questions on them, we reach back to the department heads and directors to see what exactly they're doing. So if you have any specific questions on, I can try to answer them now, or I can get back to you on exactly what they are.
I had a few questions. So there was a full-time nurse for GMS student at $63,000.
Yeah, that's a contracted service based on an IEP.
Okay, that's my favorite.
Mhm.
Okay, and new school postcards, was that the middle school mailing?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sound field for GMS.
That's,
That would be based on an IEP.
Okay, so
those are in the classrooms.
equipment replacement due to mold. We have mold.
There was in the back storage room in the OTPT, there was moisture in the room.
Yeah.
We've since taken care of that, but we did have to replace a significant list of equipment.
All right.
And in fairness, so that everybody understands, it was not an occupied building.
Yep.
Basically, the air conditioner unit was shut off over the summer because it wasn't necessary to air condition a space. However, there was equipment in there that had sweat on it or whatever. And so that's where that occurred. So when it was discovered immediately at the start, we got everything out of there.
Well, we brought
open all summer and the dehumidifiers will be running.
Correct.
Oh,
Time and
As we-
So
Okay.
we learned
As
a
they
lesson.
have been since.
Oh,
Learned a lesson about
Yes.
that. So,
So, all right, so that was GMS.
but when you use the
And it's-
M word in schools, people
Yes,
get nervous. So I just
I
want to be
know.
clear.
Servpro came in over the weekend and they like,
and it's
Mitigated.
specialized equipment that tends to be very
Okay.
expensive.
Use it for house
So a
fires,
couple of
too.
questions. The policy, again, new to this, right? Transfer of appropriations is policy DBJ. Is the current version on the website the most recent version? It says April 20th of 2016.
Let me just check it and make sure.
Thank you. The reason why I asked is it says that the superintendent will approve or designate up to 5,000, and then the board must approve anything above 5,000.
That's true.
So has the board approved some of these or
That's
some of
what
these?
we're going to do.
That's what we're doing tonight.
Right?
Yes.
And
that-
usually
Okay,
they
so
do
these haven't
come-
been spent yet.
They
This
do
is for
they do
board
come
approval.
on more regular basis.
Yeah, we do see them monthly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually on a monthly basis, not in this situation this year. It just they piled up.
So I see in this budget for April 8th and April 12th, new gators.
New gator, no new gator.
I know, that was
Was
my
on,
last,
off,
that was
on,
my
off,
last
yeah.
question.
On, off, on,
The
off.
gator is it's
Saw
a
that.
John Deere piece of equipment.
Yeah.
It's used by athletics and the grounds department to get around from building to building.
Yep.
It's just a piece of equipment. It's on its last legs. It's actually been on its last legs for
It's been on
Dave's
the
been
list.
reviving it for
Since my kids are
years.
GMS.
So he thought he had identified the funds to make the purchase, but then he came to find out that he came to realize that those were earmarked for something else. So he had to put the money back to make sure that he could do the priority that was in the budget first. So we've identified the gator on the list of potential year-end expenditures. See if we can get that replaced with them.
Okay, so this isn't actually purchasing. This is removal of that from this list.
It's just he transferred it and then we transferred it back to
Well-
where it was coming from.
Okay,
So
But
it says
I
gator.
just
It
heard
says
two
gator
things,
and no new gator.
and I want to make sure I understand. I heard that it is being requested tonight to fund, but also that it's also earmarked for end of year.
I
So
didn't hear. I didn't-
It's no. These are budget transfers within the e-finance system.
Okay,
So he had moved the money and realized that the money was needed for the original priority, so he moved it back. The year-end list is completely separate outside of the system.
okay, so this is not. There's no new gator being purchased
No.
as a result of tonight's approval. Of
Nope.
this.
What library was the furnishing?
I believe that's CHS.
Oh, okay.
All right. Any other questions for Corey?
What about all these radios that are in here?
We approved those last week.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's based on
Emergency.
emergency management and what we identified as a gap in on December 17th, the ability to communicate from school to school. These new radios will incorporate us with the town system so that we can as an emergency management group communicate from school to school in a situation.
thank you.
John Brunel is actually working with us on that so that we're all aligned across the board.
All right. Did I have a motion in a second? Or no?
Not yet.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the transfers.
I'll second.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Sorry, that brings us to the GMS principal report.
excellent.
Hello, Mr. Mitchell.
Hello, thank you all. On my report, I just want to highlight a few things and also offer an invitation. So first thing we've mentioned already that this week is Staff Appreciation Week, but the week actually before April vacation was Volunteer Appreciation Week. So I want to thank the team that was headed by Mrs. Prevel-Trammell putting on a very nice volunteer appreciation event back on the 21st. And the volunteers that came were honored with a nice little reception and given a staff-created cookbook, which I actually have a copy of, and I'm going to try some out. So our staff is not only talented in the field of education, but also in culinary. So a few things that are coming up starting next week. We have third and fourth graders will be taking part in the New Hampshire SAS assessments. And so this Friday, and I want to thank the PTO. It kind of ran with an idea, which is creating little encouragement bags for all the kids. I go around on Friday and I give them all Smarties. And I let them know that they're not really magical Smarties, but it's just something to let them know that, we're thinking about them and we want them to do their best. And the PTO has stepped up and created, full, as they do. You take it and they run with it. And so all the students will get encouragement back. So between 2 weeks and that third week for overflow makeups. So we'll have those all completed, hopefully, if attendance goes well, by Memorial Day. In the past few months through observations, feedback, also, believe it or not, watching the candidates forum, we recognize that just kind of pro-social connections are something that coming out of the pandemic is really kind of an area that we wanted to target. This was confirmed through the DESA surveys that the teachers fill out with kids. And so we decided that what we need to do is really kind of create some sort of student connection program at the school. And so unfortunately, that was March or April, not really the time you want to roll something out, but a great time to actually pilot something. And so what we're kind of putting together, I threw the idea out to staff. Jen Hayes and I are kind of frameworking it, but just throwing it out very conceptually to staff and saying, would any of you be interested in just being a student connection? Non-academic, very casual, just creating a connection with a student that you don't have a connection with in any other kind of formal way. Just to let that kid know there's someone else who cares about me. There's someone else who's here to support me, and doing it through, either a letter writing program or having lunch with them, or just, very kind of casual, not being too formal. Just by presenting it like that. And it was literally as informal and kind of jumbled as I just presented to you. We got 40 volunteers. So obviously right now, to roll something out with 40 would be big. So we're looking at 10 or 12, and we're just going to pilot it this spring and look at it and kind of connect some of our students with those, and using this spring to kind of say, how did it work? Tweak it out so that hopefully next year we can roll it out in a more formal way. We need to work on our communication. How do you roll this out to the students? How do you explain it to the students? Because it's going to kind of seem strange to them. How do you explain it to the adults so they really kind of know what they're supposed to do? I've been in schools where we've tried this and we didn't focus necessarily on the adult part. And they were the ones that felt it was more awkward. Like, I don't know what we're doing. How do we explain it to the parents? So we're working on all the kind of communication. So that's going to be one of our priorities towards the end of the year, but we're excited about getting that rolled out.
That's great.
If you go to the end of the report, just the upcoming events, and I really want to focus in on June 13th, which is the fourth grade celebration. And so this is kind of announcement to the public for anyone who's watching, and also to use the school board to just kind of let you know real basically how that day is going to go. And so what we're trying to do is hybrid all the feedback that I've heard over the last 2 years, which is the way it used to be and the way it went last year, and see if we can come up with a way that kind of fits all of the positives of both years. And so this is the best that we can come up with. So last year we heard feedback that the parents actually really did enjoy the small class setting where they could actually get a picture taken with their kid and they had that formal time, and the parents had way more fun with the honk out than the kids actually did, but they really, really enjoyed it. What they did miss was actually seeing the student receive the certificate. And then we also recognize that there is a time and a purpose for that whole class gathering and for that recognition. So how do we do it? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the morning doing individual class ceremonies where parents are invited, and we're going to add the certificate portion to that. So parents will be there. They'll see their student receive the certificate. That'll still give time. We're going to offer, again, the family photo option. They'll go outside, they'll honk out, everything will go crazy. Next class moves in. Then in the afternoon, we're going to do a larger, just with the whole class and the students kind of recognition. That's where I will give my talk, and that's where I'm inviting the SAU and any members of the board who'd like to attend. So the invitation for that is at 1:30. We're going to send out formal invitations. The ceremony is going to begin at 1:45. And so that is kind of how the day is going to go. That's where I haven't told Mrs. Magoon yet, but if she wants to do a musical performance, she could pull something together. That's where the student council can do their school is performance, and it's more celebration than it is recognition. So that's kind of how the day is going to go. And then for the rest of the fourth grade, we are actually a beneficiary of the good old-fashioned snow day that we had back in February, because it kind of gave us this bonus day that we didn't know what to do, because you have that on the Monday, you have field day on the Tuesday, and then Wednesday we kind of had this so then fourth grader teachers kind of breathed a sigh, because they thought we don't have to do all of that and mix in the ice cream and the yearbooks all in one day. So then Wednesday they're going to do the PTO kind of sponsored ice cream social and yearbook signing, and then Thursday is the last day of school. So that's
Half
how
day.
the year ends
day,
ends
half day?
for fourth grade. I'm sorry.
Is the last day a half day? On
You
that
tell
Thursday?
me.
I would say yes.
Okay. That's not my call.
Oh,
That's my
sorry.
directive.
Oops.
Mike, was that your understanding?
Yeah.
The last day of school is a half day?
It's always been.
Okay.
It wasn't on the calendar.
It was?
I don't think it said half day. It said last day of school, but it didn't say half day.
I have to check Facebook.
I,
I'll tell you.
I'm not sure it ever has, though. I think it's always been just the,
Kids check in and then
The
teachers
routine
clean their rooms
expectation.
and everything.
Then yes, it's a half day.
All
All
right.
right.
So it's been
For
settled.
the next one, next calendar, can we put that as a half day?
absolutely.
Because these things come on Facebook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, the new website.
Or the new website. That would be the
Well,
perfect place.
and actually, I mean, the challenge is if it's not a half a day, our staff end with students and their day is over. So
Oh, they
We-
don't have time to clean up their rooms or anything?
if it's not a half a day, there's not we don't have a PD day afterwards, right? So the last day for students is the last day for staff. And it's actually an equity issue because the high school with final exams ends in a different way than they do at GMS.
That's true.
So
Mhm.
you really need
Yeah,
that
no.
half day, but we should mark it so parents know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And so that was my update. And now for my presentation. So I want to bring you back to literally a year ago. It was the May meeting. I came to you and I told you that one thing that we were going to be tackling over the next year was the mission and vision of GMS. And we started that by simply sending out, complete this sentence, GMS is, and we sent it to staff, and we sent it to families, and we got a lot of feedback, and it kind of focused in on words. And from those words, we worked with the leadership group, and we came up with 5 statements that we could kind of work with. And there were basically 2 rules. And the 2 rules were, it has to be simple enough that you know what we're trying to get at. And the second one was, no statement could be in service of the students. Because you've seen missions, it's a place where students do this. We wanted the wording so that students had just as much ownership as staff, as parents, as community members. So we needed to be all inclusive. And so here's the process that we kind of went through. Spring with GMS is, leaders develop mission statements, staff review those at our August meeting, leaders keep taking in. And then what I did was I kind of created a parent group. And the parent group was created by, we identified parents, a diverse set of parents from new to the school, about to leave the school, from academia, not from academia, from the business world, from mission driven, and we just kind of put them all, had done work like this together. And so they ended up kind of becoming what I started referring to as my rock tumbler group. We put these rocks in this group and they just tumbled them and it came out polished. And so the parent group did the mission in the fall, and then we finalized the mission. And then from the mission, we wanted the mission to drive the vision. And so the mission drove the vision. And then again, same process. We come up with some vision statements, rock tumble. Here's where we came out to. Our mission now is GMS is a community of curious learners striving for excellence while aiming to create an encouraging and safe space for all to thrive.
Beautiful.
It's our what. This defines what we are. Notice the intentional language. We use learners. It's not for students. Everyone can look at that and say, I see my place in there. And then from this mission, it now moves into our vision. So the mission is what we are. The vision is what we want to become. And we focus on the word thrive. Oh, sorry. The third rule has to be memorable. It has to be something that you can almost remember. It's got to be sticky is the term that you have to do. You got to see it, stick it, and kind of understand. So now we have our 5 statements. They're all based on thrive. And so again, goes to the rock tumbler, comes out polished as this. Targeting resources and practices to maximize potential of learning for all. Honoring individuality. Recognizing, harnessing all opportunities for high levels of learning. Involving community. Valuing tradition while visualizing the future. And engaging together in learning. The goal was anyone in Litchfield can look at that and say, I see my role. And so I'm bringing it to the board so that you can look at it and see in your role. I'm bringing it to parents soon. I'm bringing it to community members. In fact, I've already set up. So next Saturday, the 13th, I'll be meeting with the Litchfield vets to go over this. And then I think help them hang flags on Charles Bancroft.
Nice.
So if any of you would like to join me, I'd be more than happy to have you come along. And so I just want to hand it out, just a quick little visual. This is not the final. Notice the big word you see on this is draft. This is just me playing around with Canva to see how it kind of lay out. It starts with a why.
Thank you, sir.
Our mission, our vision, and then the one thing I haven't explained yet is our common commitments. And our common commitments is where the mission and vision come alive on an annual basis. Every year, you take the mission and the vision, you look at kind of what you want to accomplish that year, and you come up with your annual common commitments. Those are the things that say, we have this mission, we have this vision, this is what we're going to do with it. The real purpose of the vision 2 is it is your anchor. I think when I came back last May, I told the story about the Southwest Airlines. It's like, if you want to be a low-cost airline, this is what you do. All of our decisions, and it starts with me, which means if we make a decision, if we do something, if we bring something in, whatever we do, I'm going to ask, which one of these statements does it connect to? Or which one of these statements does it honor? And that kind of guides everything that we do. So I want to show you, now that we have the mission and the vision, here's some of the work that we've done. Let me see. Hopefully I'm still on the internet. Yes, okay. So I went to the April staff meeting and then worked at grade levels, and then I've met with the paras separately. I had a para meeting, and I'd say 6 or 7 were able to attend. It was nice to have it. And they were basically asked 2 questions, which was, and I thank Karen DeJean, who helped me perform this. They brought in Jamboard, but take the 5 Thrive statements, and then what, I don't know if you can read this. It says, this doesn't make any sense, or this is clear. I can see this. This is clear. I can own this, and I can visualize this, and just basically put all those statements somewhere on this continuum. And then the second question was, how are we already doing on these? Now, obviously, I didn't want all 5s, because if we had all 5s, we don't really have a vision. We already have what we're doing. So I'm kind of looking for low scores in this one, but it kind of gave us an idea of where we stand. And so you can see, this is kind of where we stand. And so you can look at that, and now I can say, all right, these are the statements that I really need to focus in on. They don't really understand what visualizing the future while honoring, so those are the ones that we can really harness our work in, as opposed to saying, let's just do all of Thrive and keep pushing at it. I can look at that and say, I don't really need to spend time on this one. I really should spend time and effort on this one. I will tell you where I'm stuck with right now, and I'm going to figure it out. Hopefully, is I don't know how to recreate this on a macro level. This is very micro. It was grade levels. It was paras. I need to get this information from the community, and so it may just be a lot of conversations, a lot of listening, and a lot of note taking, and just making observations of they're really not understanding the V. They're not, so. But hopefully, this is the kind of work we've done. So now we know going forward, here's where we're a little lower already and where we have a lot of opportunity for growth. Or in that first question, here's what we need to do a little bit better job explaining or conveying what we mean by that. And I just put on the next steps, but I've already kind of told you where we're at. That's the next step. Cool. And also coming up with a much fancier looking. But at Mike's request too, and as you'll notice, we also wanted to notice that we are part of a district. And so down below, making sure that just as clear as that is the vision of the district as well. We're not a separate entity. But at the same point, we want to make sure that we are part of a community and everyone feels that sense of responsibility, ownership, and buy-in to GMS and what we're trying to do.
Tina and I both wrote down a para meeting. How did you make time? And I think that's so important in all the schools to have, for paras to have a voice with the administrator.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when I was a para, I didn't have a voice. I just did what I was told.
Yeah.
That's something.
I'd like that.
It had to be
After-
voluntary.
Yeah.
And I did it remotely so that it could be
Oh,
voluntary.
okay.
And I did it as a Google Meet, especially with the plug with Jamboard. It's super easy because
Right. Yeah. Just slam the thing.
it's native, to Google. So we could just do that. And then I just kind of said, I tried not to, but it's hard not to be biased. But I would have rather just sat back and let them do it because I had to lead it. Whereas the other grade levels, I gave it to them and I walked away and I just kind of walked around the room and let them kind of lead the process. So I know somehow I probably biased it by
Evolution kind
Yeah.
of thing.
no, but like I said, I think we had 6 sign on that day and they had the conversation and they kind of
And they were heard.
they were here and they ranked
That's-
them and I just moved the post-it note to where it was and then it was done. I was captured it. I kind of put it into that Google
They have
slide
a
and
whole
just
different
calculated it.
perspective than the
Exactly. I was
teachers
gonna say
have.
that too. Something
They
the
absolutely do.
school where I work had started doing, I think, monthly meetings with the para. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure
one
out
of
when
the
you could do it.
administrators,
Yeah.
the way they do it is they set up 2 different times, but it's the same time slot on 2 different days because hours are, so many days a week, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, I haven't attended because that's not my role, but I can imagine that would be a huge benefit to both the paras and to the administration
Even
too, to
during
get that
remediation
input.
days.
Absolutely. Kathy and I are having conversations.
I love it.
Yeah, I want to. I've already had conversations with Kathy, which is that I want to do it, but I also want to honor the LSSA agreement. So just kind of
Of
making
course,
sure
yeah.
that I can do it
Right.
in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Gotta make it happen.
I love it.
Yep.
Okay.
But yes, when I was at Peter Woodbury, it was every other month. One was at
Yeah.
7:30, and the other one was at 3:30. So you captured the morning people and the
Right.
afternoon people.
Right.
Great job.
Thank you.
Love it.
Just before Dan escapes, so one other capacity building piece to keep the board informed of. So today's staff meeting, faculty meeting, was focused on the building project. So I went down and gave me the chance to thank the teachers face to face for Teacher Appreciation Week and all they've done, number one. And number two, to really encourage them to engage heavily in this process. And I said, we have a board that is committed to a building project. I asked how many people in the room were here for the last building project and feel a little bit burned out by that. And quite a few hands went up. And then we really did engage with folks to say, you got to tell your story. You're the ones living in the building. You're the ones, or as Dan said, you've become so accustomed to just living with it that sometimes you're not seeing what you're living with that is not a reasonable expectation. So that's our job to help tease that out. But we wanted the teachers to understand that even though it's a little bit quiet now, we're all gearing up for September and building the capacity, and they're going to have a voice in helping us tell that story down the road. And boy, I thought it was a pretty good exchange, and we took questions from folks. So any other comments on today's?
No, I think I'll be curious on Monday when we meet with Suzanne Angarano to find out what the participation rate on the survey.
Yeah.
Because part of the staff meeting too is I gave them time to honor the time to complete the survey, and so I know a number of them have already done it, but we'll see if that had an increase in the participation, because when we mentioned things about the survey, there was a couple of head nods that indicated that they are already done it. So to clarify that it looked the same, but it was different. It's asking more specific questions, getting to design. And there was a lot of assuring nods of people that indicated, yeah, they had taken it and they are recognizing those things. So I continue to just encourage them to have their voice be heard. So we're hoping.
And they raised a point I hadn't even thought about, but we had an accident in front of the school the other day, and it was a staff member turning in, had the right of way, got rear-ended by somebody, and again, that highlights the concerns of traffic on 3A in the morning, right? So luckily nobody was injured. But again, that's a detriment to that site, and it's something to keep in mind.
I will also say not only was someone injured, but 18 inches further, and it would have been a much different situation just in terms of operations of the school of getting cars in and out of in either direction. It would have completely blocked our main entrance or would have interrupted the small loop, which we had to take advantage of both that day. So if there's anything, is there such thing as a perfect placement for an accident? I mean, there were a lot of factors that could have influenced how that day went differently. But we are glad that our staff member was okay and we were able to get all the kids in.
Yep.
And might I note, only 1 minute late.
Yes.
We started the day only 1 minute late.
Wow.
Impressive.
And that is a huge testament to the parents who were able to, okay, we're doing it this way. All right, let's just do it this way. You're waving me that way. I'm just going to go with the flow.
Well, and to your staff and you for putting that plan in place, and everybody for stepping up. You put out an SOS and everyone came running.
I sent the text message, but even before that, an announcement went out that just says we need everyone out. And I sent the text message and I looked up and the entire staff was out there and I will say I did not give any direction. That's what response looks like at GMS. And it makes me just so proud to lead that group of professionals.
We did have a letter about that. And no, I didn't find it. No.
Did you want to ask Dan about the concern that you mentioned? Okay.
Oh, good.
I have it. It was from a parent.
Sorry.
Mike, I shouldn't be doing that.
The other piece too is the strong relationship with first responders in town. I mean, again, the fact that we meet with them in routine, so everybody just falls in line. It's like everybody's doing their thing. We all know what everybody else is doing. It's really a positive on that.
Yeah, they pulled up and they parked the fire engine. I said, Doug, can you just move it like 4 feet that way? He's like, sure, no problem. And he moved it, and then the buses could get in,
Great.
This was in response to the email you sent out regarding the accident, and it is from Sam Smith. It says, you guys are the best, all hands on deck and happy faces, even under pressure. Yet again, another reason why your leadership is so appreciated in that school. Thanks for all you do, and please high five every staff member today. Also, if you could personally thank Deb Leary, Mrs. Follis, Mrs. Adamakis, Meg Kuchar, Kristen Starrett, and Melissa Gerzon.
Yeah.
They made bleep sure that these kids, especially mine and the car behind me, had an adult with them, happy talking to them and keeping them calm all the way into the building. It's just them doing their jobs. However, many parents are on emails, texts, and Facebook saying how happy they were, crying on their way out, knowing the kids were in great hands. Great leadership leads to happy staff, which leads to staff retention, which leads to a successful district. You're creating a warm, happy environment for staff and kids alike. Keep doing what you're doing. You are so appreciated. Thank you, Samantha Smith.
So I forwarded that email to those specific teachers, and I just want to let you know, in response to Sam was also a great staff leads to easy leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
all right.
Well done.
Any other questions or comments for Dan?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Business administrator's report.
All right. I'm going to give a verbal update on the projects this week. I was traveling back on Monday, so I didn't have a chance to get a written report out.
So
In terms of LMS, we closed on the municipal lease purchase on April 26th. It was very, very smooth. And they confirmed that the funding has been transferred into escrow for our use. And now just working with Bank of America to determine what their requirements are for requisition payment. Because as we get requisitions in from North Branch, we'll forward those along to Bank of America, and those will be paid directly. As of our meeting yesterday, the project is 95% bought out, I believe he said, meaning that the subcontractors are in place and getting ready to roll. The CHS lighting, they're anticipating that the completion of the materials by the manufacturer is going to be by the end of this week, with receipt of those materials by the end of next week, which at that time, EMC will start installing in 12-hour shifts to make sure that we hit our goal of completion by June 30th, which will guarantee us our seed grant money. That's also being funded partially by impact fees, so there's no impact to taxpayers.
Corey, just Dick said that the gym lights arrived today
Excellent.
and will be put in Tuesday. So as the stuff comes, they're quickly
Yep.
getting on it.
They did do a couple of things so far. I don't know how far they've gotten so far, but they were waiting on the final materials.
Corey, is what you're reading available as a report to us or no? I don't see a link on that.
I was traveling back on Monday
okay,
and
got
away
it.
last week, but
Okay.
I will continue with my written
Okay.
reports next meeting.
Okay, good.
Let's see. And in terms of GMS, like I said, I was traveling on Monday, so I defer to Tina and Mike, who were at the GMS planning meeting on Monday, if there's any updates.
I don't believe we have any updates for the board from Monday's meeting. We just that we're plugging along, planning community input. So you were doing surveys with the teachers.
Doing surveys, but also scheduling time for her to meet with targeted staff groups. So the staff oversight, we're coming up with 3 groups. Staff oversight, which will end up being a role of our leaders group, which is that type. So they'll take on the oversight. A special ed group, and then what she's calling a curriculum, but it's more like curriculum and programming. So we're going to formulate that group, and Suzanne was going to work on, I think, articulating the role of that group. So and that was it.
I had to leave early, so I'm probably not the best one.
And then we reviewed
Well-
the RFQs.
The other big thing is that we have 4 RFPs for the construction management.
Yep.
And the process we're following is everybody on that meeting is now reviewing those. We're going to discuss them again next Monday. And then our goal, and this is important for Heidi and Tina, is to bring forward recommendations to the Facility Improvement Committee next Wednesday. I think the recommendation, based on my read of it, is going to be that there's one company that is sort of above the others. And that we're going to be recommending that that's the right way to go. And then the Facilities Improvement Committee, of course, would recommend to the board for a final vote. But just so you understand, I think we solicited 6 companies. We got 4 bids. And of the 4, there's about an $800,000 spread. And we're doing our due diligence on the 4 to figure out who's the number 1. And we'll make that recommendation to Facilities Improvement, and that'll be a streamed broadcast meeting next Wednesday.
Can you also, in that meeting, ensure that you discuss? I feel like each of those meetings should start off with kind of a recap of how we got to where we're at. Not as long as they have been, but at the selectmen meeting, there was somebody who didn't understand that, they were like, why? They said, why? Why aren't we looking at rehabbing the old building? And I'm like, we talked about this many times, but there are still people who haven't heard the message.
Yep.
So I think the more we can repeat that and explain that, the better.
Yep.
Anything else?
Oh.
Oh,
All right. Well, and also attached to the agenda is a memorandum related to selecting a sole source vendor for responsive classroom. This is a piece that we need board approval to provide this to the state in order to have the grant approved. They're asking that.
And we approved responsive classroom? We approved responsive classroom?
I don't know if it's currently.
It's not being used. It's a social emotional program. I'm familiar with it, morning
Yeah.
meetings and all
Yep.
the other things. But this is the first I've ever heard of it.
Well, this is a request from Jen.
This is the grant got kicked back to us. It was in the grant application
Yeah.
and it got kicked back asking for the sole source documentation.
But this was a
And sole
request.
source for responsive classroom is the only one that does this.
Right.
So the implementation of the program requires us to go.
Explain what
Certificate
sole
of
source,
Yeah, this is-
authorization is.
we
I'm
would
just a little confused. Is it that we don't have to get multiple bids on something?
Exactly.
Is that all that is?
It's
Exactly.
grant funded.
Yeah,
And
it
the
looks like
total
it's all
cost
grant
is
funded.
total cost is
So PBIS
just under
is the money.
25,000. 25,000 is our district policy for bids anyway, but the state is hitting a $10,000 threshold for this sole source authorization.
So I think a couple of backstories on this to get
This
get
is,
us
I
to
mean,
where
we got
we
it
are.
today.
That, well, so
The
let
grant
us
just
explain
got
that.
kicked back yesterday.
But are we not doing PIBs anymore or whatever the other thing was?
PBIS.
Yeah.
That PBIS is different than this. So we have teachers across the district who are implementing elements of responsive classroom. Morning meeting is a foundational part of responsive classroom, for example, in addition to other elements. And so Jen would like to standardize that at the middle school and ask Mary to build it into the grant. And so Mary put the grant in, and it kicked back yesterday, saying literally like 6:00 last night, or even later, I think, is when it came back from the state. So I don't know who at the state's working that late, but they are. And so we're like, what does this mean, sole source? And it's basically because you can't have 3 bids for responsive classroom because it is a program run by responsive classroom. So the board just has to authorize that, yes, it's okay to go with a single source vendor. That's really what this
We
request
don't
is.
have to approve.
We need your vote authorizing it.
Do we need to approve responsive classroom?
Well, that's a separate question. So it is a program that we would be going into. So if there
Why are we just hearing about it now is my question. If you're writing a grant for it and now we're asking for money and we don't even know, well, I know what it is because I've been trained in it. I just kind of caught off guard. Does that make sense?
it does, I think our thought process on it was that it's a piece that we've been using anyway. There are elements of it in, so we didn't see it as
Have we
like,
trained teachers in it before?
this would be the first full-scale training in the whole
Brain
program.
breaks, all the other stuff that they
And
feed.
the 24,900, I believe that's to train 30 staff members.
It'll be during the summer probably. That's when we did ours.
It would be a 4-day training
Yeah.
in the summer. They're looking at August and sort of tying it into Live to Learn. So it would be a training component within Live to Learn,
Air conditioned, I hope.
of course. Well, I say that,
Yeah.
with the,
So it's just going to be, I can't say enough good things about it. I couldn't believe that I didn't know anything about it.
This is just for the middle school.
Yeah, just for the middle school, but I would have thought it would have come before us before they wrote a grant for it.
I think that's a fair pushback. And if you would like,
Surprise.
well, no, we'll halt it.
No, go ahead. But I just feel a little blindsided.
I think we should halt it because I think the point you're raising, which is that we didn't really take this through an approval process as a program before we wrote a grant for it, is valid. And
Speed bump. Don't hate me, Jen. I swear.
no, this is about following proper procedure. So
But I'm thinking about the PERC process when we adopt a new math program or
Right.
a language arts program. It goes through the PERC process and then the board approves it. But if this is more of a professional development thing,
It is. It has SMART goals. It has
but
morning meetings.
I don't think we've approved
That's my question.
specific professional development.
I think it goes beyond professional development. It's certainly training for teachers, but it's implementing a program.
Did we ever
Social
And
approach
so-
PBIS? Is that something that a board,
PBIS
like a
is
board?
PBIS is a little bit different. I think that's
Positive behavior or something.
This has a discipline tie-in too. for responsive
I
classroom
think it's more trying to avoid discipline issues,
Right.
like building connections
and self-control and
Right,
having a voice and
right.
everything like that.
Why is this limited to LMS?
Because Jen's probably trained in it.
Jen's the one who's bringing it forward at this point. So
Wouldn't it be important for all teachers?
Mhm.
it really doesn't have a high school component. There's not a PBIS. Advisory is sort of their model of bonding with students and staff. So that's got its own program piece.
But they only do
I think
30
responsive
people a summer.
classroom, and I think they only do elementary and middle school. I don't
Correct.
know of a high school training program. But so CHS and advisory, that sort of is covered. Jen's looking at, I think she's worried about a couple of things. With the number of retirements, she wants something that's going to pull everybody together, a common experience for everybody. And she saw this as the best way to do it. But I can't honestly answer the question about how this interties with PBIS. And I feel like we got ahead of our skis on this one, out over our skis, and are asking you to approve something in a grant that maybe we need to do a better job articulating how it fits with the program. So
I think it's fabulous and I'm glad we're doing it, but I wish that I had known it was coming up so I could have done.
Can we have 2 weeks?
of course you can.
Yeah.
Bring it back in 2 weeks
Jen
because
presenting in 2
Well, my
weeks.
question is, are we going to miss out on the grant
Yeah,
opportunity?
I don't
if we
wanna stop the
submit
grant.
this?
No, you won't. These grants don't end until September 30th, and they're
Oh.
probably, I think
Okay.
she allocated it to 2 separate Title II grants.
Yeah.
Correct.
So therefore, you probably have this year's, which will be open through September 30th, and then next year's that's open until
Okay.
Yeah, we don't
Well,
want to
that's-
stop
that's
the
some
process.
combination
Right.
of
Yeah,
years.
we don't want to stop the process.
Right.
Right. If we can wait the 2 weeks,
You have
maybe Jen can present on it.
Absolutely.
She's, I mean, she's up for the next meeting anyway,
Correct.
right? that
So
would be good.
what I'll ask is for her to do the crosswalk with PBIS,
Mhm.
articulate why responsive classroom, what she's hoping to gain. I've told you enough of the backstory, but I can't get into the details.
I
So,
think
her
parents
do
would
it.
like to know too.
Yeah.
What that,
Yeah, what the plan is.
and then
It's good, though.
we can get the approval at that
Yeah,
point.
oh, I know.
The sole source thing is just, I mean, that's a,
That's
Yeah.
because we're not
That's-
comparing
frankly,
different math
process
programs.
issue.
yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a piece that this is the first time in my several years of working with grants that the state's ever come back asking for something like this. So
Is it
the grants
first time,
process
though,
is
that
getting
we've-
tough.
We're committing to go with somebody.
Yeah, no.
no, because
No.
We
we,
used
Really?
to
Oh,
we used to
interesting.
commit to BNS
One person.
Locksmith as the sole source locksmith in the district. We've since moved on from that company, but at one point they were the only locksmith that we
Huh.
used.
I mean, we had the conversation that they didn't question challenge day, which is a sole source
Oh, right.
Oh,
program.
right,
and It's in the grant. So what we think it is just they've tightened up the compliance measures, and rightfully so.
Mhm.
You don't want this to be a good old boy network. Hey, I know somebody in a responsive classroom, right?
Right.
You want
Yeah.
you want it to be a legitimate process. So I think your point is really valid. Let's get it approved as a directive, a direction that we're going to head, a commitment that we're going to make, and then the sole source is, by the way, there's only
Yeah.
one person who does RC, and it's RC.
Any other questions about that?
Are these grants already awarded?
Yes.
Okay, so. And what
They're
happened?
awarded and they have a time frame that we can use them by.
So my
Not to
understanding,
us.
just to confirm,
What's
right?
that?
But not to us yet.
Yes. These are federal grants, and
Awarded
you are
schools.
allocated a certain amount per every 2 years. So these are 2-year grants. Title grants are 2-year grants.
Okay.
So you're allocated a certain amount. Say it's $25,000. You have 2 years to spend it, and you have to apply with
see.
the approved activities.
Okay.
So they already are approved for us in the amounts. It's just a matter of getting the activities entered into them and approved at the state level.
I see.
And,
Have
and
access.
these are entitlement grants. So the amount of money is predetermined through a formula as opposed to a competitive grant like what Dick was talking about earlier that this is just Litchfield, you've got $50,000 in
Based on need.
this. Now you have to get approved how to spend that money. So it's an entitlement versus a competitive.
So Title II is professional development. There's Title I, which helps elementary school reading and math, and then Title II, professional
So really
development.
the question is,
Title
what's
III.
the best and highest use of these dollars? Is this it? You know.
Yep. got it. And this is just for training, not their software solutions that they also offer. Right, responsive classroom. Looks like they offer responsive classrooms and kaleidoscope tools and other things. Just
This is for the training.
Just for the.
I'm not
training.
even familiar with
I'm
anything
on the
beyond
website.
that.
Yeah.
Familiarizing myself with.
All right. Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
Committee reports. Start with budget.
I didn't attend the last budget meeting, so
Tara missed it.
I had all intentions of attending it. We had a hearing, which I specifically asked
Oh, I
to get
forgot that.
moved up from 5:30 to
That's
5.
right. We had that
But yet,
meeting.
due to no fault of anybody on the school board here, the hearing was delayed a half an hour to start, which then pushed deliberations back and caused me to not attend the budget committee meeting. So I apologize.
Even though we were
That was
still
a
in the
long
same building.
explanation, but I did my best to try to attend.
And we were in the
this was my-
building. We were over
we
there.
were in the building.
And the meeting was over by the time we got
so,
We all understand.
Yeah. It was a short meeting. That's all we know.
All right. Thank you. Facilities improvements.
We haven't met since our last school board meeting. We're meeting next week.
Thank you, Heidi.
On it.
Emergency management.
Can I just ask procedurally? So
Yes.
I don't know how deep into the weeds you want to get. There are 4 proposals that are hundreds of pages long.
Yeah.
Our goal is for including Tina, to weed through those. So really, Heidi, because you've got access to the hundreds of
Thank you.
pages. What do you want? Do you want the hundreds of pages? Or do you want us to just come forward and say, here's the
light
one and
reading?
this is why?
Sum up.
Yeah, the latter, I think.
Okay,
A summary's fine.
that's what I was,
I am in
Planning
no
to
way
do, but I just
qualified
wanted-
whatsoever to pick a
Right.
construction
And that's kind of how I feel
person.
too.
So
so we'll do an executive summary of the 4.
that's
I guess we can give you the link to them all if you want to go read them, but what I'm envisioning is an executive summary that sort of pulls that together. And then why we're recommending one, and what we give to you is what will go to the rest of the board. But I don't want somebody to feel like they didn't have access to it all, but it's
Yeah, they can also watch them. They can also watch the
light
meeting
reading.
on Monday or Wednesday next week.
Yep.
Board members can watch that and get the summary and.
Yep. Perfect.
It's in
Thank you
the-
for that. That'll just help us. There's just a
How
lot
much
there.
do we
So
want to?
yeah.
How much do we want to filter at each step?
thank you.
If that makes sense. Okay.
what time is the meeting? Just so I can watch next
3:30.
Wednesday.
3:30, but it'll be on loop if you can't watch
Yeah.
live. So
And thanks to LCTV for recording those.
yes.
Very helpful. Okay, emergency management. Have you had a meeting?
This Friday. So
Okay.
we have not had another.
Reading and reporting.
No.
Okay. We haven't met for perk. School time. Nope. Wellness.
There's going to be a meeting on Monday, 3:30 to 4:30 at LMS.
And town capital improvement plan.
a little bit longer of an update on this one, I guess.
Yes.
We did meet on Monday. That committee is picking back up. Really, I think the recommendation and the thought is with the same rhythm as we did in 2020 and looking at a 6-year plan for anything capital expense wise over $50,000 and just kind of refreshing the whole thing all over again. And so with that, I know they are beginning to request updates from various department heads. The school will be a part of that. And targeting, nothing's been planned yet, but I've asked for kind of a structure, right, of when we can anticipate meetings and when ultimately a public hearing will be held, when the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen will be held, et cetera, and work back from that date. So that targeted September, October timeline, right? So you have enough time for budgeting. And if there's any potential warrant articles coming out of this, that we have enough time to plan for that in time for budget hearing in January, et cetera. Right. So September, October timeframe, I think, is the ultimate idea behind when this will be completed by, and then working back from that with several meetings likely starting on June 5th and perhaps 2 or 3 meetings in June, a couple in July, et cetera.
Good time.
School responsibilities. I don't know what date that will be yet. That's still being kind of ironed out and what that looks like.
We
Andrew,
can
one of
start
the
plugging
questions-
through the matrix, start going through the matrix and the summary sheets and see what. I don't think anything's gonna change entirely. Just maybe some amounts.
Yeah, I mean,
Or to
using
be
what's already
revised.
been in the plan,
Yeah.
right, and just refreshing it with updated numbers and
Yeah.
everything. We already are anticipating a new elementary school being a part of that.
So one of the questions we were asked by teachers today is how, because I talked about the fact that we had such a successful warrant this year, 2 CBAs, and so forth, getting the LMS project funded, et cetera. And I said, really, next year's warrant should be relatively thin from the school side. Budget, school. It's a
And
big
maybe
bond
electric
vote,
school buses.
maybe. And so, but the question was, well, how does this line up with the town? Are they going for,
Yep.
X, Y, Z, and something more? And I said, I'm not sure about that, but that's why there's a capital planning committee.
Exactly.
And I said, if I remember the matrix, I'm reacting off the top of my head, but everybody sort of recognized because we got a big number and a big ask.
Yes.
And so I think everybody else is sort of protecting that as the number one article going forward. But I think that's something we just want to be mindful of and keep emphasizing
Absolutely.
with the committee.
So we're working with NRPC, National Regional Planning Commission, right? And the idea, the outcome of this is to understand all those costs, put it on a big grid, right? And understand the impact as of this point in time and what that means for taxpayer impact for warrant articles. That's the idea, right? I don't know. I would anticipate probably a new fire truck being put forward to the voters again next year. And I don't know what funding sources look like for that, but I would anticipate those being part of the town request.
Excellent.
Thank you, Andrew.
June 5th, next meeting.
All right, thanks. Job descriptions.
So we're bringing forward tonight 3 job descriptions, and this really comes out of the new collective bargaining agreement. So if you remember, the CBA differentiated differently between the administrative assistants. So we then revisited and worked with LSSA to develop the job descriptions for the administrative assistant in guidance, the administrative assistant in athletics, and the administrative assistant. So remember that there no longer is the ADM 1 and the ADM 2. There's just administrative assistant. So we had to take those 2 job descriptions and say, how do we merge them and simplify them into one single job description? So that's the body of the 3 that you have in front of you.
All right.
The one question I have regarding the athletic one is there's nothing in there about any role in updating the website or calendar or even the counselor, like school counseling, athletic events. I know we have one person at each school designated to do the website stuff, but is that enough? Like, as you've said, Liz, the calendar's not getting updated. So
And
if
it's
we
a
want to have a
link.
master calendar, I think there's got to be more than one person at each building with a role in updating it.
Like guidance should be doing their
Guidance
part.
for the,
and
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that, like, so I don't know if or the admin assistants, is that an area where that should be part of their role?
I don't know who does Campbell's. I don't think anyone does. It hasn't been updated.
Well, that would be, so I'm just speaking as the website committee representative now. The calendar that we post on the website is just a Google Calendar. Is that right?
So right now it's only being, let's see, there are school board meetings on it. And then the only other thing are like third party organizations that are having events. So it must be tied to that school dues
It
or
is.
whatever. So it seems like nobody else, it seems like you're entering it and third parties, it's getting automatically entered, but nothing else is getting
Right.
entered.
But Josh should be entering it for
No, each the way it was supposed to be was each web content editor, used to be called webmasters, right?
Yeah.
Supposed to be inputting into that calendar.
The same calendar. Yeah. It's just not happening.
So I think a couple of things. In terms of the job description, this comes under the last thing and anything else assigned by the school administration,
Yeah.
right? So I think we're okay not specifying
Who does that?
you have to update
Okay.
the calendar. And I think that this new structure with the web committee is where we're going to say, here's how to, whatever the
Process.
we're building the process exactly, and then
Yeah.
we'll assign it out from there. So I think we're okay on the job description piece.
Okay.
Yeah. I just, I think the more school organizations. I mean, if we have an athletic calendar, I know Google has a thing where you can follow as many calendars as you want. So when my kids were in GMS, I followed the GMS calendar. When they moved up, I followed the LMS calendar. If everybody's using those calendars, if athletics and music and performing arts and
We'll have less
robotics,
conflicts of
then we'll have
interest.
less conflicts and,
Yeah.
and things like double scheduling on the same night.
That's the design. We just have to
Yeah.
get it to that point.
Yeah.
And right now, we're not all using the Google the way we
Yeah.
should. So did
Um,
that address all your questions? I want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was all just, kind of about that
Who
kind of
does
stuff. Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the renewed job descriptions, admin assistant for guidance, and admin assistant for athletics.
Second.
All right. Any further questions, comments? Was Jess stepped out? She's coming right back. So, all in favor of approving the job descriptions for the 3 different administrative assistant positions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. All right, now we have policies for reapproval. There have been no changes to these policies.
Are these the ones we did last meeting and we're waiting for
We were waiting for
Andrew to
Yeah.
come in?
There
Yes,
are.
thank you for all of your
Yeah.
responses to my questions. Did you all get emails on all those? Is that how that works? I don't know. Is that
No, I
Okay.
don't.
No, I didn't
All right.
get
I
any.
didn't know if everyone got emailed or how that
No,
worked.
no.
If you put it on the
comments?
agenda, the comments, we can see.
I did it within each of the policies where the
Yeah, you
questions
should be able
were.
to see them inside the
Ah,
policy.
Oh, I.
We haven't opened the
No, I haven't
policy.
I
opened
didn't
them
look
since
at
I already
them.
looked at them.
I know, I already
Yes,
looked
I
at
read
them
them
2 weeks
and asked all
ago.
sorts of questions.
That's what I usually do too. All right.
So Michelle and
Now
I
I
went
wanna
through
open
those
them
today. I think we answered everything, but I want to make sure before you are asked. to vote.
No, you did, and I'm good. I think
Michelle
the only
does
one that just
overtime
doesn't
now.
make sense to me is summer activities. Like I just don't understand why that's one that the school board approves.
That was what I was looking at.
It's required by the state to have a policy, and it's
I
not.
don't see any of the questions on here.
It shouldn't even be a policy, really, because everybody does it. Districts do it, but it's
Yes.
just one of those policies that's required by the state.
Not that I disagree with it. It's more
I
a
know.
question of
Oh,
why the
here's
need.
some.
Anyway,
Apparently they require. it.
Yep.
All right.
Did you get all the answers you wanted, Andrew?
I have like 30 emails.
Go into the doc. They're all nicely listed.
Right,
on
each
here.
Oh, are
time
they?
there's a
Yeah.
response
Okay.
and it emails you.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
All right. So,
Yeah.
all in
Wait.
favor.
Let's go quick, go quick.
Second on those?
I don't know.
Hours of policy reading.
No, I'm doing that now.
You're doing that.
I'll make a motion to approve policy IF, IFA, IGA, IGD, IHAE, IHAK, IHCA, IKFA, IKFB, and IL.
Second.
Good job. Did you want to read them all
Second
off?
was much easier.
Yeah, exactly. All right. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain 500. All right. Old business. We're into policies that we have for a second reading and final approval.
So these are the policies that you did first, not at the last meeting,
Right.
but the
Yeah.
one prior. So they were
Yep.
also tabled till tonight.
Mhm.
And I think there are some questions in there that have been answered, but I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that.
There are. Where do you see the questions of that? I don't know.
We should-
I have emails, but I don't see them in there.
Even if she answers them, it should just say resolve. The
Yeah.
questions still
I
say.
left them- I
Until you
left-
delete them.
Yeah,
I
that's
left them
good.
in there because I wanted to go over them with Dr. Jetty. So
Yeah.
I think it's good you leave them in there
Not
because we
seen
might
them.
have the
Well, you
same
may have-
question.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's always eye-opening to see what somebody else has brought, you know.
well, and then
brought
when
forward.
once
Yeah.
the policy is approved, then I'll just remove them.
Right.
Egg.
Which ones did you have questions on, Andrew?
Teaching.
I didn't
I don't-
reread these.
Well, it
From
looks
last
like
time.
their homework guidelines was one of them. Yeah, I'm just going through them myself.
Political activities.
Okay.
I see your comment on that one.
I'm looking at teaching about alcohol.
Oh, so I'll make, while we're at it, I'll make a motion to approve policies BECEF, BEC, comma, EF, comma, GBI, IHAMA, IHBBA, and IKB for a second reading and final approval.
For, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll second.
For IHAMA,
Mhm.
right?
I think that is in the health curriculum.
I'm pretty sure it is, because
Under
years ago,
Shannon's
we used to have a
EPN,
DARE
yeah.
officer.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't have that anymore.
Right.
We're-
Soon.
We're going to.
We will, yes, we
Okay,
will.
sorry about that.
I'm glad you said that. But for the years past, we haven't had one, and I believe they put that into the health curriculum.
I remember them doing projects on different drugs and things like that. I don't know what Mrs. Epan did it. I don't know where that curriculum is.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the board's fine with it, I'm fine with it. I was just trying to highlight maybe a gap in calling vaping.
So we
out
don't have to use vaping, e-cigarettes?
No, in the law, it literally says e-cigarettes.
Okay.
Yeah, I provided the
Mhm.
the link to 126K8.
I'm worried
Liquid.
about
For today's
vaping.
student, is that synonymous with vaping, or can they be different? You know, that's what I
I
don't know.
agree,
There
yeah.
are two different kinds.
Right.
One of them you vape with, and the other one is smokeless.
Mhm.
All of it.
And I think that's why the state, if I remember correctly, when I talked to Baron Christina last year about it, I think that's why they don't say vaping, because there are different kinds of e-cigarettes.
So it's still classified under the category of e-cigarettes.
E-cigarettes.
Oh,
That's what the
interesting.
state calls it, right?
Well,
Vaping?
that's what's in the RSA.
Okay.
So,
So-
as our policy, can we add vaping in?
You could add vaping.
You
I
could
wouldn't
add
cut.
it.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't substitute e-substitute.
Right.
No,
That, was,
Cigarettes
that
with
wasn't my. It was more adding a parenthesis.
Kind of a
vaping.
parentheses.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I would like to see that, because I
Sure,
think
we
that's
can
a
do
far bigger problem than any of us can
All
wrap
right.
our heads
So do you want
around.
to propose that?
And I think
amendment?
the other piece is that it would, I mean, obviously in the classroom, we're going to use the terminology that is known to the students, right? So,
Right.
Cool and hip.
Mhm.
So we have a motion and a second to approve them all.
Right. Right. We can remove this from that motion. Make a motion to remove policy IHAMA and to authorize it separately.
yes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. And now do you,
To Hama.
So we're going back to
So
all of the.
Then I'll make the motion. Right? Do we need another motion now?
Now you motion for that policy.
Well,
To add vaping to it?
Well, but
unless you want to approve all the
Right.
other
We
ones.
approve all of them.
We
first.
just made a motion to remove IHAMA and we voted on that. So now we need to vote on the other 6 or 7,
B, C, E, F,
approve
G.
those, and then we can
Alright.
deal with IHAMA.
I just confused myself.
It would be my thought.
I didn't realize we, okay.
So did you withdraw your original motion?
no, just,
No,
they're now voting on everything but
Everything but
IHA.
I
IHAMA.
I Hama, yeah.
hammer.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or
Name for
comments
drug and
or
alcohol
proposed
policy.
amendments on any of those other policies? All right, so I have a motion and second to approve policies BEC, EF, GBI, IHBBA, and IKB. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. 500.
That really needs a different acronym.
IHAMA.
Our
Hama.
alcohol policy should not
Right.
say IHAMA.
IHAMA. That's okay.
Whose idea was that?
Oh boy,
We have no
okay.
control
Getting
over that.
punchy. Getting
School Board
punchy.
Association.
All right.
All right,
So-
I'll make a motion to IHAMA, otherwise known as IHAMA, after the word e-cigarettes, but before the comma, to add a parentheses of vaping.
I'll
Okay,
second
you can
that.
just say, you can literally make a motion to approve the policy as revised by the board, if you like,
With that insertion. That makes sense.
with that insertion. I'll craft it for you.
Sounds good. I'll make that motion.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Let's vote on that motion.
I Hama.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
That sounds so.
500.
I Hama.
Yeah.
No, I'm dropping my O's. 0, 0.
It really does.
Gosh,
Are you
All
a
right.
Hama?
Already been a long
I'm
day.
not a hammer. Current situation update.
So just refresh on where we are with policy now. We're caught up.
Yeah.
So now we're bringing you
Yeah.
new, so we chose not to bring you a new batch.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Especially with
Even though you wanted it, I said no.
the
Appreciate
vacation
that.
week and everything
Yeah.
else. So now
Yeah.
we're all caught up on what's in the loop and we'll proceed from
Can
here.
you just bring us ones that the acronym makes a funny word?
Yeah, that would be way more fun.
Like
iJammer.
like iHack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I jam. I
Yeah.
jam is good.
Yeah, I like that one.
All right.
Cybersecurity policy, IHAC.
No, that's the citizenship policy. iHack.
Character one.
Yeah.
Does it fit?
All right. What happened
Sorry,
to
we're getting
report
giddy.
on the coronavirus situation?
Are they both the same thing?
So can I
No,
make
they're
sure
different months.
But they're both the same, I thought. Let's see.
you have the April one? Can everybody access April?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
April, yes.
Yep.
And there's not a lot to tell April. If you look at, so we ended up medium, low, low in the last week at the three schools, but it was medium at GMS. But really, the attendance upticked as we got to Friday of school vacation week, which
course it
happens
did.
every year.
Yeah.
There's nothing really alarming in these numbers when you look at them. It sort of ran the course of what you would reasonably expect. So,
They did approve the vaccine for 6 and under. Didn't they? Well, I
I
wasn't
haven't
aware.
heard.
I didn't see that.
I missed that too.
I heard that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Phew,
I
I'm not
did.
losing my mind.
No, I
Yeah,
heard that.
3 months to 6 years,
Yep.
I think it is. Yeah.
Nice.
And then if you look at May, and I'll be honest, I got the sheet to the schools late. So let's just take a peek at where they are. Not surprisingly, Griffin had a higher than normal absence rate on Monday, but it's the Monday after vacation.
Mhm.
There's really not a lot else going on there. We've got one positive staff member, although you are up to 8 students,
Yeah.
a little bit of an
At
uptick. So
GMS.
Yeah, that was my concern why I asked for this to be updated, right? With everyone traveling with the uptick in COVID that we're
Yeah.
hearing about, how is that impacting and how are we
Yeah.
seeing the numbers in our schools?
Mhm.
I can tell you of our 8, only one has been in school. So I only had to send out one classic email that said someone. So 7 of them,
We're over vacation.
we either found out over vacation, the weekend before we came back, or we found out in the last 2 days, but they haven't been in school
Okay.
since. So they had no
Send out email.
If it's
school impact.
6 kids and 2 staff at CHS.
Yep. One of mine's Mike.
That is interesting to monitor over the next 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely an uptake.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I was
Yeah.
glad we tested. She said she had a sore throat on
Mhm.
Sunday, and all right, we'll just do it just in case before we go back to school
Yeah.
and see our friends. And
Mm-hmm.
she was positive, so
Yep.
it's happening.
All
It's
right.
everywhere.
Thank you for that update. The manifest. Any questions on the manifest? Or did you have anything else to add for the?
no, I think
It says it all.
we're going to meet as a group tomorrow. I will tell you that I spoke with the town today, so I had a call from the fire department and health folks, just asking about our COVID protocols and verifying what we're doing, why we're doing it. Do we have test kits available? In fact, Dan, you've got like 2 boxes of test kits. So if there's a family that's in need, they should let us know. And remember, the testing is really to allow a student to return back more quickly by showing the negativity. But I think we should stay diligent because there is that uptick right now. And, the travel component is key. So,
Yeah, it does make it a lot easier now that we are accepting the home tests. So I'm grateful for that for that change that we made a few months ago. But you do need 2. So, do one test one day and then you have to wait for 24 hours to do the second test.
But to that point, we have allowed students in, literally, like, they've come in late, like.
Yeah.
they came
After
in
that
at
test,
8:15,
right.
They came in at 8:30 this morning, they're in at 8:45.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, like, on that, once you get that second negative test, you're eligible, so come on back to school.
If you're feeling well and you're not.
If you're feeling well, then there are
Yeah.
symptoms.
Yeah,
If
no
you're still
symptoms
sick,
on
stay
that.
home.
Well, it's the same thing about the flu too. That's going around.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, that brings us to, were there any questions on the manifest?
No.
Okay. Public input.
I got. Is this public input?
Is anyone here to do some public input?
We just can't make faces at you.
I know, it's been entertaining.
I have no life.
We appreciate you. Well, come on up.
No.
You have to.
Identify yourself, please.
identify yourself.
And your address, social security number.
Been through this before. I have some concerns about the electric buses.
Yes.
I'm worried about Dan and who's going to pay for his rehab as he goes through the fume withdrawal.
So noted. Dan,
And Maura.
we'll expect to see that in your budget next year.
Yeah, the iron lung.
Just kidding, everybody at home.
No idling, Dan.
No idling.
No idling.
Oh, okay. You have one more
I have an
correspondence.
email and I would like to give a shout out to all, oh, this is from Claire too. I would like to give a shout out to all seniors who have committed to college as decision day was Sunday, May 1st. I did not know that. I would like it noted that I'm emailing as there was a previous comment about Teacher Appreciation Day, sports team acknowledgement, but nothing about academics again.
Absolutely correct. And I wasn't aware of that being a deadline either,
Yeah.
but congratulations.
Yeah, I didn't know
Me
either. We knew right away.
I'm-
To all of our
Congratulations
students.
to
As a
all our
parent of a
seniors.
senior, I'm very proud of all of our seniors. And I'm excited to hear more about their future plans. And the end of the year is near. So
Oh, did we get anything from Campbell, their end of the year stuff?
So Principal Lonergan sent it to me at some point this afternoon.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
get it
okay.
sent on to the board, but it was not on time for a link.
Okay.
But there are things we can go to and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Do you have anybody in the room?
No, I'm staring at myself. I just didn't put myself on the
That's
wall.
okay.
So
We can see you just fine. All right. And with that, we will say goodnight and we'll take a roll call. What?
Nothing 7:20.
Calm down.
Funny.
Calm down.
Calm down. Calm down.
We still have non-public.
Don't get too used to it.
Yeah.
More
Um,
policies coming next time.
I'll take a roll call vote to go into non-public session according to RSA 91-A:311 for A through C.
that's your number.
The dismissal or promotion or compensation of any public employee for the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. C, matters, excuse me, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. Andrew?
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
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 Thank you. And with that, we'll go into non-public session. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 16th.
No, is it 12? No, for May 18th.
May
I put the
18th.
school board ballot calendar on the Facebook page.
Okay, great.
Yay.
Thank
Not
you
a
very
pro.
much. And we'll see you then. Thanks, Oscar.